Can you hear me?
Yes.
What you describe on this mail about bliss and anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and then you say that she had a breakthrough, and then she realizes her true nature. I think that's what you mean.
She's moving toward that, definitely.
Yes. So with me, something happened, and which I also wanted to share with you, but somehow I did not do that because I wanted to be with confirm this more in a way and be with it a little longer. And today I feel it's the right moment to bring it forward to you.
Okay.
That that there's seeing or the clarity, or how can I put it in words? I could recognize myself, my true self, as this, like, which I was trying to reach, or it just happened. Just there. So before, when I this bliss or anxiety would happen, and then identification or a kind of a conflict would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, because it's so naturally I am this, that it happens. But anxiety would become very strong, and it was getting stronger. So I was trying to let go the anxiety, but in that moment also I am, or I was completely here. Like,
Yes.
I mean, you just can't do it. I mean, you cannot move from this position as you when this is seen. So what was happening that I was very much present in both moments. I mean, not present means without just doing, but out of habit or something, or having a feeling to let go this anxiety, which was like really. Um, so, but today when you speak that, that stand in your seeing,
Yes.
which I was already standing without effort, like I am, even now also when you were talking, anxiety was there, and I'm looking at it, and yes, and it's getting stronger. So what happened was to try to let go. My attention would go to try and do something, but now the moment you were saying this, I just kept standing. I mean, didn't try to do anything.
Yes. Yes.
Didn't try to do anything because this, I'm just already here without like, and so
Yes.
it's like just already something, just a part of it, not completely. Now I can see that part of that anxiety, which was it just dissolved in this moment when you were talking, and I just did not try to do anything, and I just remained as myself.
Yes.
So it just arose, there's anxiety, and then a part of it just dissolved.
Yes.
It
Very
seems
good.
like right now in this moment.
Yes.
So now I have shared both before, which recognition happened, which I wanted to bring this forward to you, but
Yes.
I was taking time for that to, and now in this moment when you bring this part of anxiety, which started after, not anxiety was always there, but
Yes.
after,
That's the
yes,
truth. Yes. The conditioning of anxiety is always there. And this is recognized by the self very clearly in this
yeah,
moment that you're describing. Yes. Beautiful.
yes.
Yes. Now, Kamal, there's this opportunity for you to be able to just continue this sadhana, if you will. It's actually just the keeping quiet, you know. It's always true. This has been described by many, many people that when there is this moment of recognition, and it's a true moment of recognition, that there's often a period of silence that follows it. One where I don't really want to talk about this, or I don't feel I have the opportunity to talk about this, so I'm happy to just be here, witnessing, if you will, this rising and falling of phenomenon, this rising and falling of bliss, this rising and falling of anxiety or despair, watching it happen. And yet there's this firm recognition that I am that which is watching this, I am that which is aware of this. Even though I may, to someone from the outside, I may still look like I'm experiencing anxiety, or I may still be actually on the floor, rolled up in a
Yes,
ball, you know. Uh, there is still this firm recognition that this is coming and going, and this awareness which I am is watching this. You know, this is the way of it, you can say. So very good. Just continue in this way, and thank you for sharing your experience. Bhagavan talked often. He would use this metaphor about in this way to describe the self, the indescribable. The self is the indescribable center of being, the heart of being. But he would describe it this way in very ordinary terms for people to understand, even in his day, which was in the 1940s and 50s, this was a new technology. But nonetheless, he would say, you are the screen, you are not the movie. He would use this metaphor. He would say, because the on the screen there is the burning of fire, you are not burned. The screen is not burned. The fire is burning, but the screen is not burned. And he would say, this is the nature of the self. You are the self. You are the awareness itself. You are the screen. And on the screen of this awareness, which you are, these other things can happen, whether it be bliss or it be despair. So beautiful. You return to this over and over. Then there comes a time when you don't need to return to this metaphor anymore. You simply know that which is aware is here now, whatever the circumstances appear to be. And then this experience, in some way, you can say there's no stages about this or levels, but you can say that this experience deepens more and more and more. And it deepens in the silence of your own being. But as it does that, it does not mean that there might not be some form of parabdha karma or karma which is related to the body-mind complex, right? You have taken a body-mind. So to a certain degree, whatever brought this body-mind into being, This will play out, and it may continue to play out even beyond the recognition, I am the self. Many sages, many saints, many ordinary people who have had this experience indicate this by telling us that the experience of life just continues to go on, and whatever needs to happen as a consequence of parabdha karma, the karma that's related only to the manifestation of the body mind, not related to the self, this parabdha karma will continue to throw things up on the screen. The remedy is always the same, and she points to it in her email very, very clearly. The spontaneous arising of this question: who is this I that is having this experience? And so Bhagavan said to us in his teaching, someone asked him, how long do I have to do this? And he said, you do it even after recognition, anytime that the feeling sense I, me, mine, anytime this rises, you can still ask the question, who is this I? What is aware here? Now, of course, the difference between someone who has had the experience you're describing, has come to this recognition that I am that which is aware, not this anxiety, not this, and so on. Once that recognition has come, then this inquiry, if you will, or this sadhana, it continues largely in silence. So we don't need to share it with other people so much, but we may share it in satsang, we may share it with a teacher or a guru or someone that we trust as a way of confirmation of the experience itself. This can happen. Not necessary, we can just go on in silence. But for many people, the fact of sharing it, of having it heard, of hearing other people talk about it, this acts as a confirmation, gives us that strength and that trust and that faith to continue on our way. Beautiful.
Shiji, can I ask you something about this?
Of course, Atma Vidya.
'Cause
Happy to see you. Thank you.
I was very happy to see you, and I can just relate so much to what you're saying and what you just said about this parabdha karma, and that there are some activities we just need to unfold. I can see that the more there is a deepening happening in the seeing, and there's less of attachment to this world or even desires, and just the feeling of wanting to stabilize here, and then I can see that sometime after there is an opposite happening. So if I move in certain surrounding, or even with people who see or project something on me, then there are many of these old desires coming up. So the wish to build something or to create, to be more dynamic, and then it kind of, I wouldn't say it's a clash, but I can see that something I'm in between. I'm not really in this manifest world, because there are less of this, there's less attraction, but something is still pulling, and then I'm also moving towards this deepening. So it's like in between these two, and this, I can see it, but this,
Yes.
the feeling of surrender, it that just whatever comes, that it comes from God, that it doesn't, it's not created by the ego anymore.
Yes. Beautiful. Yes. None of it is created by the ego if you don't believe in the ego. You know, the belief, I am separate. This is what we call ego, right? All these thoughts that come to the mind, we call ego. We say, this is who I am. But if we look very deeply as you have and as you are, then we see that something is arising spontaneously here. And if I don't interject that there is a me, if I don't believe that I am doing this, then there is a much more free flow of spontaneity that happens. And for some, this spontaneity leads us more and more deeply into quiet or into silence or into some form of withdrawal for a period of time. But for others, it leads back into the world, so that these kinds of things that, like what I'm describing as parabdha karma, the destiny of the body mind, they can be experienced and they can be lived, but not so that they can be identified with, not so that we can then go back into the story of me and say that because this is happening or whatever, this means X, Y, and Z about this body mind. It doesn't. We go through the experience of allowing the body mind to have its expression, to have its experience, to dance its dance, as Muji Baba likes to say, to dance its dance. The secret of freedom being not to identify, not to say, this is me, or this experience says something about me, or my realization, or my enlightenment, or my lack of enlightenment. You see, this whole dialogue just becomes unimportant at some point.
As I was listening recently to Maharaj, Nisargadatta Maharaj, and he was saying that you should not take any new task or duties, but just to fully commit yourself to this inquiry. And I can see that sometimes there is a feeling that I still keep taking on more, and I can't see if it's really something which is life presenting me, or if it's something which I can still see from my conditioning to create, which is still coming.
Yes. But can you ask yourself the question, why am I taking this on?
Because there's a joy, and sometimes there's just a joy in creating or learning, or it's just a part of this expression.
Yes, yes, and you will always learn from anything that you take on, right? You will always learn from that, whether you experience joy or you experience disaster because of the taking on of something. You will learn from that, and it becomes part of your understanding of yourself in the body-mind realm. But it is at some point in sadhana, it does become important, as Maharaji says, it becomes important to, if you will, pause for a moment and notice the motivation about why you are taking something on. Some things just happen spontaneously in our experience. So these things are just in a part of our destiny. But once we take up the mantle of spiritual life, or the willingness to enter into the life of a sadhak, it does become imperative on us to ask, what am I doing and why am I doing it? Only because it becomes clear very early on, if we're asking this question, it becomes really clear that if I repeat certain kinds of experiences, or just don't interfere with them, or don't stop them, or don't make another choice, that each time I engage in this kind of activity, this kind of experiencing, what happens is I feel myself move further and further from the center of being, more and more out into the activity and so on. This is not a problem, but understand that this is part of the veiling quality of the mind. is for us to move into the objects that come into mind, that come into experience.
Mm.
So as a sadak, it is very helpful, not for everyone, but for some, to ask, what is the purpose of my doing this? Does it lead me more and more into the center of being, into the experience that I am aware, into the experience that I am peace, I am love, I am calm? Or does it lead us further from that? And we know this usually only because we've moved very far away from what feels like the center of being. And then we feel like we have to drag ourselves back, you know? We have to force ourselves back into it in some way. We have to leave that experience behind. We have to leave those people behind, whatever, you know? We just feel like, oh, I just can't do this. That's the recognition that allowing ourselves to repeatedly go in a direction which is not helpful for sadhana, we have to get control over that. And this is why in the scriptures, this is referred to as sort of a moving toward purity. But I don't mean purity in the sense of you are perfect, but purity in the sense of understanding what it is in mind and what it is in body that leads us away from the truth of our own being, which is being, consciousness, and bliss. Most of the difficulty that we see in the world, we look around, is the result of people not, of beings not understanding I am that which is aware, I am being, consciousness, and bliss, but rather thinking I am the body, therefore I have to get what the body needs. I have to satisfy it. I have to please it. I have to accumulate wealth. I have to get there before that person. I have to get mine because there's not enough for everybody. You see, this kind of thinking is the kind of thinking which leads us down the path of self-indulgence, not the path of self-realization. So it is incumbent upon us as sadhaks to ask this question: does this lead me into a greater sense that I am that? Or does it lead us away from that?
But there is already more discernment happening, so I see this. It's already
Yes, and
built
thank you for
in.
thank you for using that word, because this is one of the faculties that is very helpful for the recognition of the self, along with others. But discernment is a very good one. Discrimination, discernment, dispassion. These are the kind of the foundations, if you will, of yeah. And this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes we cannot develop discernment unless we go
Mm.
into a certain circumstance and we say, oh, no, 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 that's not for me anymore. you know, that was me before, but that's not for me now. This is discernment. So this is very good. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Mm.
But even as we're developing and cultivating the qualities of awakening, like discernment and dispassion, non-attachment, these kinds of qualities, compassion, even as we're doing this, it's incumbent upon us to also be aware that in the development of these, we want to be careful that because we are becoming more discerning, we are becoming more compassionate, more discriminating, does not mean that we are superior to others. This is something which we are doing because of our desire, which is coming from the self, not coming from the mind. Our desire to awaken, to realize the truth of our own nature, and that, but we do want to be aware that the ego, the thought processes, the processes of personality can also co-opt that process of cultivating discernment, cultivating dispassion, cultivating compassion, and we can become very prideful. So we're always walking on this fine edge, a little bit this way, a little bit that way, a little bit this way, a little bit that way. and we're tracking, we're keeping our attention in some way on the recognition that I am that, while also watching the way in which the mind likes to um, uh, fool us. It wants to trick us back into believing that I am a person. Whether it's a good person or a bad person is not the mind's game. It just wants to trick us back into the belief that I am a good person. So now, oh, I am a good Advaitin, you know, I am a good Hindu, I am a good Buddhist, you know, and this ego gets bigger and bigger and bigger. No, you are nothing. If you truly understand Advaita, if you truly understand the non-dual nature of reality, you are nothing and you are everything. And between these two, you walk. This is sadhana. Oh, good. James says that was exquisitely disturbing. Very good. Thank you, James. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityor Mukshya Mamritawa Swaha Bhuva Bhu Om Sat Jung Hang Om.